said Newman. "My dear fellow, don't look so mortally disgusted. It was not my choice. The thing is all arranged." "I told you so," groaned Newman. "I told him so," said Valentin, smiling. "What did he do to you?" "My good friend, it doesn't matter what. He used an expression. I took it up." "But I insist upon knowing. I can't, as your elder brother, have you rushing into this sort of nonsense." "I am very much obliged to you," said Valentin. "I have nothing to conceal, but I can't go into particulars now and here." "We will leave this place, then. You can tell me outside." "Oh no, I can't leave this place. Why should I hurry away? I will go to my orchestra stall and sit out the opera." "You will not enjoy it. You will be preoccupied." Valentin looked at him for a moment, colored a little, smiled, and patted him on the arm. "You are delightfully simple. Before an affair a man is quiet. The quietest thing I can do is to go straight to my place." "Ah," said Newman, "you want her to see you there—you and your quietness. I am not so simple. It is a poor business." Valentin remained, and the two men in their respective places sat out the rest of the performance, which was also enjoyed by Mademoiselle Nioche and her truculent admirer. At the end Newman joined Valentin again, and they went into the street together. Valentin shook his head at his friend's proposal that he should get into Newman's own vehicle, and stopped on the edge of the pavement. "I must go off alone," he said. "I must look up a couple of friends who will take charge of this matter." "I will take charge of it," Newman declared. "Put it into my hands." "You are very kind, but that is hardly possible. In the first place, you are, as you said just now, almost my brother. You are about to marry my sister. That alone disqualifies you; it casts doubt on your impartiality. And if it didn't, it would be enough for me that I strongly suspect you of disapproving of the affair. You would try to prevent a meeting." "Of course I should," said Newman. "Whoever your friends are, I hope they will do that." "Unquestionably they will. They will urge that excuses be made, proper excuses. But you would be too good-natured. You won't do it." Newman was silent a moment. He was keenly annoyed, but he saw it was useless to attempt interference. "When is this precious performance to come off?" he asked. "The sooner the better," said Valentin. "The day after tomorrow, I hope." "Well," said Newman, "I have certainly a claim to know the facts. I can't consent to shut my eyes to the matter." "I shall be most happy to tell you the facts," said Valentin. "They are very simple, and it will be quickly done. But now everything depends on my putting my hands on my friends without delay. I will jump into a cab. You had better drive to my room and wait for me there. I will turn up at the end of an hour." Newman assented protestingly, let his friend go, and then betook himself to the picturesque little apartment in the Rue d'Anjou. It was more than an hour before Valentin returned, but when he did so he was able to announce that he had found one of his desired friends, and that this gentleman had taken upon himself the care of securing an associate. Newman had been sitting without lights by Valentin's faded fire, upon which he had thrown a log. The blaze played over the richly encumbered little sitting room and produced fantastic gleams and shadows. He listened in silence to Valentin's account of what had passed between him and the gentleman whose card he had in his pocket, Monsieur Stanislas Kapp, of Strasbourg, after his return to Mademoiselle Nioche's box. This hospitable young lady had espied an acquaintance on the other side of the house, and had expressed her displeasure at his not having the civility to come and pay her a visit. "Oh, let him alone, Monsieur Stanislas Kapp," had therefore exclaimed. "There are too many people in the box already," and he had fixed his eyes with a demonstrative stare upon M. de Bellegarde. Valentin had promptly retorted that if there were too many people in the box it was easy for M. Kapp to diminish the number. "I shall be most happy to open the door for you," M. Kapp exclaimed. "I shall be delighted to fling you into the pit," Valentin had answered. "Oh, do make a rumpus and get into the papers!" Miss Noémie had gleefully ejaculated. Monsieur Kapp, turn him out, or Monsieur de Bellegarde, pitch him into the pit, into the orchestra, anywhere. I don't care who does which so long as you make a scene." Valentin answered that they would make no scene, but that the gentleman would be so good as to step into the corridor with him. In the corridor, after a brief further exchange of words, there had been an exchange of cards. Monsieur Stanislas Kapp was very stiff. He evidently meant to force his offence home. "The man, no doubt, was insolent," Newman said, "but if you hadn't gone back into the box the thing wouldn't have happened." "Why, don't you see," Valentin replied, "that the event proves the extreme propriety of my going back into the box? Monsieur Kapp wished to provoke me; he was awaiting his chance. In such a case, that is, when he has been, so to speak, notified, a man must be on hand to receive the provocation. My not returning would simply have been tantamount to my saying to Monsieur Stanislas Kapp, 'Oh, if you are going to be disagreeable—'" "You must manage it by yourself, damned if I'll help you." That would have been a thoroughly sensible thing to say. "The only attraction for you seems to have been the prospect of Monsieur Kapp's impertinence," Newman went on. "You told me you were not going back to that girl." "Oh, don't mention that girl any more," murmured Valentin. "She's a bore." "With all my heart. But if that is the way you feel about her, why couldn't you let her alone?" Valentin shook his head with a fine smile. "I don't think you quite understand, and I don't believe I can make you. She understood the situation. She knew what was in the air. She was watching us." "A cat may look at a king. What difference does that make?" "Why, a man can't back down before a woman." "I don't call her a woman. You said yourself she was a stone," cried Newman. "Well," Valentin rejoined, "there is no disputing about tastes. It's a matter of feeling; it's measured by one's sense of honor." "Oh, confound your sense of honor!" cried Newman. "It is vain talking," said Valentin. "Words have passed, and the thing is settled." Newman turned away, taking his hat; then pausing with his hand on the door. "What are you going to use?" he asked. "That is for Monsieur Stanislas Kapp, as the challenged party, to decide. My own choice would be a short, light sword. I handle it well. I'm an indifferent shot." Newman had put on his hat; he pushed it back, gently scratching his forehead high up. "I wish it were pistols," he said. "I could show you how to lodge a bullet." Valentin broke into a laugh. "What is it some English poet says about consistency? It's a flower or a star or a jewel. Yours has the beauty of all three." But he agreed to see Newman again on the morrow, after the details of his meeting with Monsieur Stanislas Kapp should have been arranged. In the course of the day Newman received 3 lines from him, saying that it had been decided that he should cross the frontier with his adversary, and that he was to take the night express to Geneva. He should have time, however, to dine with Newman. In the afternoon Newman called upon Madame de Cintré, but his visit was brief. She was as gracious and sympathetic as he had ever found her, but she was sad, and she confessed, on Newman's charging her with her red eyes, that she had been crying. Valentin had been with her a couple of hours before, and his visit had left her with a painful impression. He had laughed and gossiped, he had brought her no bad news, he had only been, in his manner, rather more affectionate than usual. His fraternal tenderness had touched her, and on his departure she had burst into tears. She felt as if something strange and sad were going to happen. She tried to reason away the fancy, and the effort had only given her a headache. Newman, of course, was perforce tongue-tied about Valentin's projected duel, and his dramatic talent was not equal to satirizing Madame de Cintré's presentiment as pointedly as perfect security demanded. Before he went away he asked Madame de Cintré whether Valentin had seen his mother. "Yes," she said, "but he didn't make her cry." It was in Newman's own apartment that Valentin dined, having brought his portmanteau so that he might adjourn directly to the railway. Monsieur Stanislas Kapp had positively declined to make excuses, and he, on his side, obviously had none to offer. Valentin had found out with whom he was dealing. Monsieur Stanislas Kapp was the son of and air of a rich brewer of Stratford.